What's up, world? It's Ryan Bant again, coming at you guys this week. We are discussing in our master's class thoughts on building trust in coaching. And there's a lot of things in this world that we live in now that makes building trust very, very, very difficult. What is real, what is not real. You have on the web, you've got things called deep fakes where people are able to basically take your face and have you say all sorts of stuff if you're online all the time. And it's getting to the point, it's like, well, what can we really believe? Fake news, bias, both conservative, liberal, whatever it may be. Well, that has seeped into other aspects of our culture, specifically in the world of coaching. And so it becomes very, very hard to develop that trust between the athlete, the coach, the athlete or the coach and the parents, athlete to athlete, coaches to coaches, because you're always built to question things. In the past, you used to trust everybody. It took a village. Kids could play out in the neighborhood. Everybody kind of watched out for each other. And nowadays, people don't do that as much. They're very worried and concerned that there's something bad coming around the corner at any time. Gloom and doom. And there's some reasons for that. First of all, people have over time proven to us and shown to us that they cannot be trusted. With the world of the internet, all the bad stuff that happens anywhere can be recorded and shown throughout the world. And so you have what's called a confirmation bias, which basically is if you believe the world is this way, you're going to search out things that prove that your position or your view of the world is correct. So for coaches, it's hard. It's always going to be hard. If you are a high school or a college coach, you're always going to have trust issues. And what I mean by that is that you have to reprove yourself over and over and over every time so that, over the long haul, if those athletes stick around with you, they'll know that you are to be trusted, which means you've got to be consistent. And what I mean by that is how you respond to situations, how you communicate with athletes, the decisions you make. All of that should have a structure and a setup that you guys understand and that you guys can replicate over and over and over again. So it's very important to be consistent with how you handle athletes and how you handle parents. If you can do that, then an athlete always knows, and a parent will eventually know, what is going to be kind of your response, your attitude, your position when they come to you. For me, the most difficult thing I've ever had to deal with were with people that were very, very inconsistent. I remember I had, I would call him an acquaintance. He wasn't really a friend. And the most frustrating thing about him was I never knew how he was going to respond to a situation. He would be my best friend one day and try to bully me and undercut me and backstab me the next. Needless to say, that person wasn't very trustworthy because they weren't consistent. I didn't know what to expect from them. Now, that doesn't mean a person who's consistent is someone you always like. Okay, and we'll talk about that as well. Two of the people that I hold near and dear to my heart, David Jafari is one of my buddies, and he coaches with me in track and field. And then Adam Bergeron, who used to teach with me and coach with me as well. The reason they and I did not see eye to eye on a lot of things, but what I always knew that they were going to be is they were going to tell me what they thought. I didn't have to worry behind the scenes if there was a different conversation happening about a response to me, a decision, a concern they had. And more importantly, they always had my back around other people. So you need to be consistent. Consistency allows you to at least have what we will call a baseline for every social interaction. I had a boss a while ago that you just never knew what was going to happen. You never knew. You walked in, you kind of looked at the administrative assistant, and you're like, and depending on the day-to-day would dictate, whether you tried to have that conversation or come back later. Now, that person, he hired me. He brought me in for my first job in Parkway, and I hold him near and dear to my heart. But it was very, very difficult on those days when he wasn't having a good day to know what to do and how to handle it. It became very, very difficult. So it's important to be consistent, no matter how you handle a situation, that the kids know this is probably what's going to happen if there's something wrong. This is probably going to happen if there's an opportunity for us to take advantage of, if there's an opportunity down the road. So having those structures in place, communicating with your athletes in a simple way all the time. My athletes hear from me daily via email in the season. My athletes hear from me daily in practice. And they also know that there's a certain structure to our training and a certain structure of communication that's expected. And by having those rules and regulations of how the kids interact with you, how you interact with them, and they're always very consistent, then everybody understands the rules of the game. And that because you understand the rules of the game, the interaction, the understanding between the coach, athlete, athlete to athlete, parent to coach, then it takes away some of that anxiety and worry about how this is going to be. So it's very important to be consistent. All right, number 2, social equity. No matter how much you believe that you are an honest and trustworthy person, when somebody meets you for the first time and they're pretty sharp, they're not going to trust you right away. They're going to give you time as kind of a probationary status to figure out that you can prove to them through your consistency. Are you to be trusted or are you not? With athletes over a certain amount of time, if you are building up that social equity and you are consistent, it allows you to weather the storm of much more serious situations. We had a kid who got hurt on a run way far away from us on a winter conditioning training session. It was really scary. And in some parents, if you had no social equity with them or you had no social equity with that kid, then that would probably be a real serious situation that could have been very complicated for us to handle. But because the kid knew that we have their best interests at heart, that we've always been there, we've always been consistent, the parents understood we've always had the best interests of the kid at heart, there was no worry about wrongdoing or inconsistencies or anything like that. We were always able to weather those types of situations because we built up that social equity. However, the one thing you need to understand is with parents, they're never going to entirely trust you. Okay. And social equity, the pool of water, you can only fill it up so deep. And a little splash of a serious situation or something bad, that social equity is gone. So you have to always be mindful that if you think that this person is going to be there for you or have your back or be your best friend, you've only got so many of those freebies where you can make those situations happen in your favor, because that social equity is very hard to build up and it only goes so deep. Don't rely on the fact that somebody's going to have your back over their kid, over their teammate, or whatever. So in order to keep yourself out of those bad situations, being consistent, having rules, being someone that's approachable, being open and honest, always helps develop that trust so a person knows why you're doing what you're doing, when you're going to do what you're going to do, and how you're going to do it. If you can always answer those questions and they can answer them in their own head in alignment with you, well, that's a pretty good situation. But understand that that social equity is only so deep. And so it takes a really long time to develop it. And then if you don't be consistent, it goes away a lot faster. It's just like getting in shape. It takes a really, really, really long time to get in great shape. But man, it can go away rather quickly. I lost who knows how much weight over the course of the track season. And in just a month, I've put on 10 pounds. And it probably took me 5 months to take it off. It's the same idea with this relationship. It takes a long time to build it up so that you have some trust and that you can weather the storm of bad situations. But realize that you can only have so many of those bad situations before you run out of that social equity. How else do you build social equity? You cannot make, number 3, you cannot make outrageous promises. If you know that an athlete has a good chance of being a varsity athlete, and you feel comfortable telling them that as a way to get them out onto your program, because you know track and field and cross country, the sports I coach, those are usually like the afterthought sports. So you have to really do a lot of convincing to get kids out. If you know that they're going to be a varsity athlete, you better darn well know for sure that there's a spot for them where they're going to regularly compete. If you think a kid can be a scholarship track and field athlete by the time they're done with you, You better darn well have systems and networking and coaching and progressions in place where you know that that kid is going to go to the places you think they can go to, barring injury or really bad individual choices that the athlete makes the 22 hours they're away from you during the day, which can derail a lot of stuff. But you better darn well know that that's something that you can get done. If you tell them, yeah, I think I can call this coach for you, I think that you could walk on to this program, again, you better have a good understanding of what it takes to be a walk-on in that program, what it takes to be a scholarship athlete, what it takes to be an all-state athlete. Now, don't make these promises without the expectation of them doing their part. There is a lot of stuff that they have to do in order to be successful. And being open and honest with them and being consistent will give you the ability to share that. Say, hey, you're in this spot right now as an athlete. If you do these 10 things, you will radically improve your performance next year, next season, over the winter. But you've got to do those things. And then by telling them what to do, then you have to give them the means in which to do it. When you develop a means that has consistently proven over time that it takes an athlete from A to B, B to C in a successful manner, that earns you a little bit of a reputation that you know what you're doing and that you have the ability to do it. Now, one of the things you also have to understand is that there are going to be other people who are going to make outrageous promises if that kid is a really talented athlete, and they're going to try to steal that kid from you. I can't tell you how many uncles and club coaches and random people will approach your athlete over the course of the time that you have them, if they're very special, very talented, very gifted, and promise them the world. Now, the good news is, if you're very consistent and the kid improves in your program and you're worried about somebody interfering or intervening or getting in the way, by being consistent, having the proof over time with other athletes in other situations and showing it to them that how much they've gained or earned or improved in your program will limit the outrageous promise from someone else. Doesn't mean it's those, they're not going to do it. There's still going to be people making all sorts of claims and stuff. I had people say, oh, Banta doesn't know what he's doing. We take all his athletes and he takes all the credit for the athletes. And this club that said this and this coach that said this never coached a single kid of mine. So how do you defend yourself from that? You're not going to be able to stop those conversations from happening. They're always going to happen. But how do you protect yourself? Well, the first three things, right? Be consistent, develop some social equity so they trust and they know that you know what they're doing and you have their kid's best interest at heart. But more importantly, the kid and the family, because you've done those other two things, will develop a kind of a meter, a radar to the BS. They'll say, that just does not sound very true. That doesn't sound, that seems odd. Everything that I've seen from Coach Banta or whoever seems to tell me something different. And by this person saying this, it really turns me off to them. Now, us as coaches, when an athlete comes to us, you cannot allow them to talk bad about other people. You cannot make those outrageous promises. You have to be very careful on how you handle those situations. Now, how do we continue to improve that over time? You have to be honest. I tell my kids all the time, I will never lie to you, which means that sometimes athletes are going to have to hear from you something they don't want to hear right away. How do you handle that? Well, maybe you don't tell it to them right away. Say, hey, I don't feel comfortable having this conversation now. Let's meet at ACT Lab. Let's meet before practice. Let's meet before school. If it's a parent, let's meet with the athletic director, whatever it may be. But you always have to be honest. And if you've been consistent, you have social equity, you've never made any outrageous promises, and you're always being honest, it may not be easy to hear, it may not be easy to handle, but you know that you will never be caught in a lie. So I have a young lady in my program right now who is very smart, very talented, and needs boosts all the time, needs to be talked to and everything. And so I told her, I'm going to be honest with you. And the reason why I'm being honest with her, not to bring her down, not to hurt her feelings, but if there is something that didn't go well, I'm going to tell her so that when I do tell her and I need her to believe me and I need her to trust that you did awesome, or, hey, this is the reason why this is happening. Don't worry about it. We've got a plan. We're going to work through it. We're going to get through it. This is what we're going to do to make an adjustment so that when you need her to believe you, she'll believe you when you're also being positive. It isn't just about, the negative and, you got to tell them, you got to be cold-blooded with them. No. It's you're using those moments of difficult honesty for when you're being positive that they believe you as well. Because they're not going to believe you if you're always sunshine and rainbows. Because an athlete doesn't want to hear sunshine and rainbows if they didn't perform well. They want to know, what are we going to do to fix it? They don't want to know. You don't put the blame on them. We had bad handoffs at the beginning of the season in track, and the kids were upset, and, we got new relays, and we're smashing these kids together, and we knew we were going to be fast. And was it probably the kids' fault to some degree? Absolutely. But why was it the kids' fault? Because I had not prepared them in practice with enough handoffs, because we had a new freshman in the mix, 2 new freshmen, different arrangement of relays. It was a really unique situation. So I told him, I said, I haven't done my job as a coach to help you. Now, when I give you the skills and we practice this and we give a lot of time to this, then your responsibility is to execute it once we've put it into place. But my job is to give you more time with it. Okay? And I said, because guess what? If you guys continue to screw it up, then it will be your fault. It won't be my fault. Okay? But it is currently my fault because we haven't had these good handoffs. I haven't given you the time. Well, thankfully, lo and behold, we qualified to state in the 4x1, 4x2, 4x4. We were second in the state in the 4x1, and we were second in the state in the 4x2. And we broke the school record in the 4x2, and we were ranked nationally. The only teams to beat us in those relays, had very, very talented groups, obviously, as well. And I'm okay with it. And our handoffs were solid when they needed to be. And we were consistent when we needed to be. But because I was open and honest with them saying, hey, this is my fault. I'm the one who didn't prepare you. But I'm going to prepare you. And then you guys have to take this seriously. You're going to have to execute. It allowed those kids to have more confidence in what we were doing. And they knew that I understood that it wasn't right. So they trusted me more because they knew I was going to give them the time to do it. And I followed through with giving them the time to do it. And I consistently did it more than I usually do in a season to prepare these new kids to run fast. And we ran really fast. Last thing, kids, athletes, parents, coaches want to know where you're going. People kind of poo-poo periodization, like lining up the training and taking advantage of different anatomical adaptations and biological adaptations. Like, it should be week to week, day to day. Not true. You need to have a program in place that you can flex. It can flex this way or this way, but you're not going to tear the whole building down. It needs to weather the storm. It needs to be able to move. It needs to be able to handle. And you're going to be able to add on additional things, a new wing to the house, a nice new man cave, whatever, when you talk about it being like a structure of a house, of how you structure your training plan. But you have to have a plan. Kids need to know what is going on. Kids in my program know that Monday's the hardest day of practice. Tuesday's a medium day. Wednesday's typically an unloading day. Thursday's a speed power day. Friday's a pre-meet day. Saturday's a competition, and everybody's competing. And they know that. They know month to month that there are weeks where we unload to give the kids their legs back. They know that, so they can pound and do the intense work that they need to do in the certain weeks, because then I unload them to allow them to flourish. They know that I'm going to constantly rotate kids into different events, because no one is going to own an event until the end of the year when we're trying to move our kids on to state. And they know that. And then the kids tell the younger kids, and the parents tell the older, younger parents in the program that, hey, Coach Banta is going to do these things. So I'm always prepared. When I come to practice, I'm not like, what are we going to do? The kids know that I have a very developed plan, and I show them all that ahead of time so that they can see this is the plan. It's 100 pages of documents of workouts and training sessions and all that kind of stuff. So they never think that I just randomly were doing something. And so when I tell a kid, we're going to peak when it matters the most. We're going to be prepared when it matters the most. You're going to be healthy, and we're very unlikely to get hurt They know that because over time I've proven that through the preparation, through the training, to allow those athletes to peak and to be ready to get after it. They know that all the time. And because I'm prepared, trust is built. Because my assistant coaches come to practice prepared, trust is built. My assistant coaches know that I'm prepared. They want to coach with me. They know I'm going to be ready and we're going to be ready to go. They know that things are going to be okay and it's never going to be chaos. What does that do? It reduces the anxiety for everybody. All right, guys, those are the thoughts that I have for you. My kid is screaming and crying. She's done with her nap, so I'm going to have to cut this a little bit short. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got any comments, thoughts, ideas, please share those below. Share the video. If you're watching this on YouTube later, please hit the like button, all that good stuff. Love you guys. Take care. Peace out.